The show that goes there. This is the Shaggy Jenkins Show on the Pacifica Radio Network.
It's the Shaggy Jenkins Show on the Pacifica Radio Network. Welcome to it. Hey, I'm your host. My name is Shaggy Jenkins, and boy, do we have a lot to cover, including... Okay, we're not going to cover anything other than the downfall of America as shown to us through the Cohen trial and all of the reactions from yesterday's craziness and what they mean for the country going ahead. Believe it or not, there's implications to be had. Before we get to all of that, hi, I'm a critical thinker, a problem solver, guy just left and normal and sane and found on a website called shaggyjenkins.com. My co-host can be found in one of the places that Donald Trump one time rode through and said only black people would live here. I'm talking, of course, about the wonderful windy city of Chicago. Please welcome veteran radio broadcaster and correspondent, Chris Bass.
You have overcome, for I am here. And you know what? We don't need Trump going through our neighborhood or any type of things like that. Let's let him stay where he is in the White House. He can stay over in Vietnam, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, because, I mean, as long as we're talking about, you know, crap hole places, I come from the trailer park-ridden Piedmont area of North Carolina, and dare I say, there's a lot of people that would go through that area and be like, only crazy people would live here. So, first off, hi, one of us got out. And second, you know, this is kind of a thing. It's one of the things that I want to bring up about what Cohen told us about Trump before we get into his actual testimony, because when it comes to the character of Donald Trump, he is one bougie cracker. He is exactly the mentality of uppity white folks that even us, middle-class white folks, did not like driving judgmentally through our neighborhoods. And Chris, learning that this is something that he does, that he just cruises around and says, oh, only black people would live here, only Muslims would live here. Is this the kind of behavior becoming of a United States president?
Of course not, Shaggy. You know, you and I both know that, and some other people out there know that too, who gravitate to that mindset. It's very easy to be stupid. It's very easy to be racist. It requires no thought process. So if someone said to you, hey, look, man, that's a sure ignorant black fella. Yeah, he is. And not even think about, wait, you know, I don't know that person, you know, I don't know who he is or who she is and why should I judge them? Instead of that, it's very easy to be led to, I wouldn't say slaughter, but led to a certain mindset. And when that happens, that's why people, I think, who are not strong in the mind can be easily said and told different things. So in that particular situation, here's a man who's beyond, you know, supposed to be, you know, beyond old from the standpoint of age-wise concerned. The man's in his 70s. So you got to figure how many years on the earth he's always felt this way. And again, you have a public persona and your private persona. And sometimes the two sometimes will meet. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. You know, which one is the real person? You know, roll back and read the whole book by Robert Louis Stevenson. Who was the real person? Was it Dr. Jekyll or was it Mr. Hyde? Some psychologists said it was always Henry, not him, John, but Mr. Hyde was the real one, Edward Hyde, because he was free, no inhibition. He wasn't locked down by society. He just did what he wanted. And to me, Hyde is Donald Trump.
Yes, because as long as we're talking about unfettered personality and characteristics, I want to go through the 3 titles that Michael Cohen gave Donald Trump at the opening of his testimony yesterday, and that was, he is a con man, he is a racist, and I think the last one is he is a liar. Now, I want to kind of break these down. First, let's just go to the one that I obviously know the answer for, but I am going to, like they used to do on the Dave Chappelle show with Paul Mooney, ask a black man. Chris, is Donald Trump racist?
Of course he is. And you know, when you talking code the way he has done, that goes to the messages. Like, let's go back to the horrific, unfortunate situation that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. So again, we get to now infamous or famous, depending on your ears. It was wrong on both sides. And so when you're talking code like that, you're pretty much giving racist white people like the KKK and skinheads and, you know, white supremacists the okay sign to do that. Now, you can't go by and say, you know, stand up white people, get a talking code. So when you're talking code like that, it gives them the okay. We all go back to the now infamous Graham by the P, which is very misogynistic. And what I liked about that situation, what was interesting, what I liked how people react to it was, okay, that's somebody else's P, not my P. No, it's the same one. You can't see where it's derogatory. And I started to laugh about that. But again, how people receive stuff. And it's amazing how this president can go on the way he's behaved about S-holes and countries and people of color. And it's okay. No, it's not okay. Yes, to say in an understatement, he is a racist, by all means.
Yeah, because this is one of the things that when it came to Cohen's opening statements, and he started going through categorically explaining those, the one that I thought that the news media, by and large, glossed over the most was hey, this is me telling you not only is Donald Trump individual one, but he is racist number one with a bullet. This guy is terrible. And he even goes on to say he is capable of generosity, but he is not generous. He is capable of kindness. He is not kind. I think he even thrown in there he's capable of being human, but he's a lizard person. I mean, there was a lot of revelations that came out. But when it came to the racism one, this is the one that I think really stuck with the panel, because can we just talk about Chairman Cummings for a second and the hard job that he had just in mitigating past Michael Cohen's opening statements?
The thing about Chairman Elijah Cummings of the Oversight Committee is that I must say categorically that he is my new hero. And I love the man. This is why. Here's a man who's been involved in the Oversight Committee for over 20 years, about 22, 23 years. He's seen everything, heard everything in his time there. Has been a lawyer. Has lawyered up for lawyers, as he stated, during this time. So nothing gets past this man. And the fact that he was able to, I would say, flawlessly keep this whole thing intact goes back to him as the chairman. No matter what you say, it was clock management. Everybody had 5 minutes in time. He was very gracious. If there were some discrepancies that were going on, he would look into it. Right, he's like, we'll take care of this right here and now. You want somebody like that, I know I do, who's very effective and gets the job done. Elijah Cummings should be, as far as I'm concerned, the voice of where we are right now in this country. He's one of many. But the way, we'll get into later on with his closing arguments, closing statements, you have to be commended for keeping that whole thing intact.
Oh, God, yes. And let's start off with Mr., and I almost want to call him the Right Honorable Brother Elijah Cummings, because Chris, he took him to church in his opening statements when he said, and I quote, "The days of this committee protecting the interest of the president are over." Now, as his opening statement, do you think that he was signaling, Chairman, at least on this board, Chairman Jordan, and I'm not going to name any of the other Republicans because they passed to Jordan like their name was Pippin. So it was Chairman Jordan and Chairman's Pippins. But when Elijah Cummings was setting this up, what do you think that first shot across the bow meant to him when he said, "The days of this committee protecting the president are over"?
What he was galvanizing his point, Shaggy, was this is a new day. We are not going to have other politicians protecting a president who deserves no protection. This man has single-handedly, meaning Trump, dismantled what it means to be president. He has spawned off Trump-like other candidates, we'll get to that later on in the program too, who want to be just like him. When you have that type of mindset where you're able to just get away with things and not be accountable for your actions. And the same thing about what Chairman Cummings said. The American public needs to have people responsible for their actions. I think it galvanized a whole new era to say this day forward is a new day.
Yeah, but see, that's just it. In his opening rebuttal, not opening statements, Chairman Jordan did go on the attack and basically said that this committee was invalid. They should have been looking into Clinton. There was nothing here to gain other than a political attack on President Trump, and he, for one, was sick and tired of putting up with that. Now, that seemed to me like political dog whistling just for all the white people that wanted this to go away after those statements that Cohen opened up with. Now the funny thing is Jordan started talking about Cohen's opening statements before Cohen read them, thanks to the New York Times releasing the statement just ahead of the testimony, some like 13 hours before Cohen testified. They had the entire opening statement online. And, of course, me being an idiot and working a morning show, I decided to stay up till about 12:30 Hawaii time to read it. Oh, but, God, it was fascinating. But it seemed that, and I want to ask you this, Republicans did not, or should I say did, Republicans, in fact, actually have a strategy for what they wanted to accomplish with Cohen today and yesterday?
Oh, of course. The strategy plan, Shaggy, was to destroy the character of Michael Cohen, to constantly beat the drum that Michael Cohen is a liar, that he lied under oath, and that was going on. That whole thing was going on since the beginning, middle, and end of the testimony. It was to eviscerate and character assassinate Michael Cohen. So that was the plan. And once again, even Michael Cohen had mentioned this, that nobody on the Republican side asked questions about the president. Nobody did. It was all about Cohen. He was not there for him, for Cohen. He was there for the president to talk about these bullet point positions of knowing the man for 10 years, being the fixer, being his personal lawyer, and giving evidence to all these things we already knew about. We knew he was a racist. We knew he was a cheat. We knew he was a con man. But here comes a guy who says yes, yes, and yes. And here's evidence to prove it.
Now, this is one of the things that I do have to bring up that was very interesting is in those opening statements, when Jordan finally let this happen, because remember, Mr. Cummings did have to say, we've had enough, let's get to Mr. Cohen's opening statements. I mean, he had to shut them down before they even got started. But when they did get started, in Michael Cohen's statement, okay, so he identified the three things that Trump was. He talked about being intoxicated with the power that being around Trump got him. But it seemed like he went ahead and put out the receipts up front, specifically knowing that the Republicans' thing was to only discredit him. Chris, let's get into Michael Cohen's opening statements where he starts to go through, and this is my favorite word since Kim Kardashian once uttered it, receipts. Can we go through the receipts of Michael Cohen's opening testimony?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, let's do it.
Okay, let's start with the biggest actual receipt of all, the actual receipt that Michael Cohen had, and that was the check for $35,000 that he had received while Donald Trump was in office for payment against Stormy Daniels going public with her affair claims. Chris, this is something I'm going to ask very gingerly because neither one of us are lawyers, but I'm pretty sure we both know the answer. In that statement, Michael Cohen did identify a time frame that contradicted Trump's attorneys, any public statements made from Donald Trump, and previous statements that are now known to be lies from Michael Cohen. Did that violate some sort of campaign finance with Donald Trump and his payoffs to Stormy during the campaign and into office?
Yes, there were times where you looked at, for example, Cohen said in the testimony that he would get paid by two different checks, a check from his personal account and a check from the corporation. So you would think that when people pay other people, it'll be consistent of where the revenue stream is coming from. But if it's inconsistent, two different values of revenue stream, then where does it come from? Why do you change up? Is it so that it won't be on the books? Are the books cooked? Are you trying to hide something? And I remember they asked me the question, though, did you ever question the fact about it came from two different resources from the check. And like most people, Cohen said, I was just happy to get the check. You know, I didn't care where it came from. I just want to get paid.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Cohen threw more shade than an oak tree in Atlanta in the middle of summer when it came to all of the attacks. And when it came to the attack on the receipts themselves, of course, it was Jordan leading the pack down the field, Pippins and all. And in his attack, he basically asked, what kind of lawyer sticks around waiting to get paid? And Cohen was kind of like, I don't know, all of them?
You would think, right? You know, I gotta take care of my resources. You know, my time is money. So yes, I'm waiting for my check.
Yeah, but when it comes to them going after Michael Cohen on that check, it seemed to be that Republicans were like, how dare you accept this money for doing this bad thing, and not, how dare the president pay you to do this bad thing as his proxy? What is the disconnect of logic here? Can you enlighten me?
The disconnect is that when you're trying to do a Jedi mind trick, you must first have a mind to do so. And the Republican style of the committee today or yesterday was conducive of that. And you cannot, as I said before, something you just can't spin. You know, again, you cannot go after a man who you want to, once again, viscerate and say that he's a liar. But here's the thing about it. In the opening statement that Cohen talked about, yes, he did say he was a liar. So what more can you say? He's a liar. He can't be trusted. Well, if we did a litmus test on anybody in that room, nobody would be trusted if we think about it. But the case being, you have to take consideration where the source is coming from. Let's go back to ranking member of the committee, Jim Jordan. So Jim Jordan starts off the whole campaign about Cohen not being trusted and why we're wasting our time and things of that nature. And this howling and screaming. And you and I had an exchange, you know, throughout the whole testimony, going back and forth on Messenger.
Lord, yes.
Man. It was wild. Oh yeah, man. We were going at it, man, and listening to the whole thing and watching and giving our opinions. Just because you raise your voice does not make you right. It's all a dog and pony show. It was just all smoke and mirrors, and a lot of people fell for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, because when it comes to Mr. Jordan, he definitely created some technical fouls with some of the attacks that he did on Cohen. And one, I've got to kind of foul him for a double dribble on this. In the opening statements, Michael Cohen finally admitted to the one thing that, let's just be honest, we all knew. He says, Mr. Chairman, individual one is Donald J. Trump. Now, that's one of the biggest revelations, because when Michael Cohen said he is individual one, well, that was the opening, or could have been the opening for the GOP to then go into the Southern District of New York's testimony and things like that, where it concerned individual one, and really kind of use those kind of statements to discredit him. But instead, why? And please, because Chairman Pippin, and Chairman Pippin, all the Pippins, all basically came to Michael Cohen with the same defense. Are you doing this for a book? Or are you doing this for a movie? But they never once went into individual one. Why is that?
Because it goes back to what Chairman Cummings said before about protecting the president and protecting him was concerned. And that's what they were doing. They were doing exactly that. They didn't even mention Trump by name. In fact, it was the Republicans that mentioned impeachment. Nobody else did, but they did. So their playbook outed their own selves. When I said earlier about reading between the lines going back to that whole thing. The Republicans were nervous. They're running scared because they knew that, in fact, we mentioned the day before when the committee was with Michael Cohen at a 10 to 13-hour, going back and forth investigating and interviews, a Republican was heard to say, he is the best witness I've ever seen. Now, come on now. If one of your own on the other side of the aisle is admitting this, they knew what time it was. They knew they're about to be in for a fight, in a battle. So instead of addressing the classic 900-pound gorilla in the room, let's sidestep that and go after Cohen.
Yeah, because this is the thing. after Cohen, they went merrily rolling. However, this is the thing. In three different occasions, Michael Cohen decided to take little digs at Jordan. The first one was, of course, are you referring to Donald Trump or myself? The second one was, are you Donald Trump? And then the third one is, are you going to ask me about Donald Trump? Now, it seemed to me that Jordan and Pippen, probably one of the most successful basketball law firms ever. Jordan and Pippen. These guys, when they went after Cohen, each one of them had almost like a different agenda up until they passed the ball back to Jordan. Now, I got to ask you, because it does seem that, at least when it comes to Chairman Cummings and some of the Democrats, there was a concise, logical path of let's start at the beginning of the timeline and, just like a criminal investigation, reestablish the timeline of events. That's one of the biggest things you do as a prosecutor, okay? Mr. Cummings, of course, is aware of that. So in establishing the timeline, the defense typically is supposed to discredit the timeline. However, Chris, were Republicans at the same hearing as the Democrats when it came to Cohen's first day?
No. It's obvious they weren't. They weren't even trying to be on the same page. Again, they had their tactic and their game plan, game, set, and match in their minds before they went out there and did it. And as we talked about this before about passing back to Jordan, so we saw the tactics. Each committee person is given about 5 minutes of time to speak. So you do what? Maybe 2, at the most 3, and then pass it back to the ranking member, Jim Jordan. And that was the tactic. That was their game plan. And then, no matter what was going on, it was always negative. We can't trust, as public enemy used to say, we can't trust it. When it came to Michael Cohen, the only one that seemed to be fair was, I want to say his name, Justin Amish from Michigan. He was the only one that didn't have any type of fever pitch fervor when talking to Michael Cohen. He was very calm, cool, collective, asked him questions. He was the only one out of that group of Republicans that was not going for the jugular. I think he should be commended. See, that's how they should have went after it. But again, a best laid plans of mice and men.
Yeah, I know, because I'm going to ask you a question that people like me cannot honestly give our opinion on because, well, it concerns people like me. Chris, what does it mean to you when you see this collection of crackers, politically correct, this collection of Caucasians frothing, and I mean this in a very literal sense, frothing, foaming at the mouth, and yelling at Michael Cohen, and then they turn around, and this is the thing, they say, oh, no, that behavior is minorities. That behavior cannot be attributed to us. In other words, they're just as racist as Donald Trump. So I got to ask you, what does it mean when you're watching television and you're seeing these white guys screaming and foaming at the mouth like wild animals?
You almost expect it to some degree. You've seen that type of dance before. And like all people, we didn't know what to expect when we first saw and heard these openings of the whole thing with Michael Cohen. We didn't know what's going on. But when the other politicians started to show their true colors, show their allegiance, the Republican Party, the GOP, has always been known to be, how can I say, a bullying type, bully pulpit, my way or the highway type of thing, traditionally. So why break tradition now? Why should you go to a different route? I told you, the only one was Justin Amish from Michigan, was the only one that seemed the most collective, the most respectable. And everybody else was just, going for the jug, like I said earlier, and foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, everybody else was kind of doing their best impersonations of Representative Matt Gaetz, who basically came out ahead of the Cohen testimony and says, hey, Michael, does your father-in-law and your wife know about your girlfriends? Might want to have that chat tonight. Here's the funny thing. because everybody kind of went with that tactic. He actually set the tone for how Jim Jordan and all the Pippins acted on the first day of the Cohen hearing. This is the thing. Gates is now apparently under investigation by the Florida bar. Are we surprised?
Nope.
Nope. But this is the thing. When it comes to him, yeah, he's going to get a little comeuppance. When it comes to Jordan and all the members of Pippins that were on that chair, and with the more to come in the Senate subcommittee that they're in, and plus the investigation committees, and well, there's going to be the finance committee. Let's just go ahead and say there's going to be a litany of committees to come, all of them investigating things. Holy cow. Strap in, America. But with all of this said and done, look, do you think in the first day that the Democrats actually made a good, plausible timeline of events for Michael Cohen?
Depending on your lens, but my lens, I would say yes. You had a credible witness. Again, let's go over to the whole thing about him being a liar. Yes, he's documented. He's a liar. That's one of the main reasons why he's going to prison, for lying to Congress. But most people, when it comes to lying, they would not lie if they were able to save themselves.
Right. And I'm going to have to cut you off right there because we got to go to a break and save ourselves the trouble of, running out of time. When we get back, more on Cohen and the future of America. Do we have one? Who knows? It's the Shaggy Jenkins Show.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything. All I did was dance. I was being scouted for a scholarship. I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor. If making my detox public is gonna help somebody, I'm all for it. Is there any medicine that I can have right now? I'm cold sweating really bad. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Warning. Too much consumption of the Shaggy Jenkins Show could result in a higher IQ, a better understanding of the world, and not being called a f***ing idiot as much. It's the Shaggy Jenkins Show.
It's the Shaggy Jenkins Show on the Pacifica Radio Network. Welcome back. We are so sorry that we've had a lot of breaks this week, but it's been hectic. And of course, since this is the week in review, if you've missed anything and it's been hectic for you, don't worry about it. You can find this show literally everywhere. We're on Spotify, we're on Podcaster, we're on a bunch of stuff. Just go to our website, shaggyjenkins.com, and you can find out all about that. Joining me from the windy, not S-hole city of Chicago, I know, because I've went through there many a times. Please welcome Information Headquarters himself, Chris Bass.
Thank you very much, Shaggy. Glad to be back.
Man, okay, so before we went to the break, we were kind of talking about how Michael Cohen lied to protect himself, lied to protect the president, and in fact, with all of these lies, knew, going in front of the committee, that he could not lie at all. I want to go through some of his statements before we get into, Donald Trump's kind of non-reaction. And I say kind of non-reaction because there was a statement released, but we haven't seen him wake up in Vietnam and really get a cheeseburger and a tweet going. Let's talk about some of the stuff in Michael Cohen's testimony, because this is the thing. As people were questioning him, one thing, and this is kind of a very serious question for us to contemplate, because he was very comfortable in doing this, but one thing that he kept bringing up time and time and time again is the influence that Donald Trump has over people. Can I ask you, does Donald Trump have, in fact, here's an old word for you, that mojo?
Yes. He does. And the reason why is because, let's go with what Michael Cohen said. Larger-than-life figure. Even before he became president, people knew of him, especially in the 80s. In particular, I think is where he got most of his notoriety. Being a so-called successful business mogul, the Trump gambling that's out there on New Jersey, which never still have recovered for at this point. But all these things associated with Trump at one point was very positive. It was very showbiz-like. And when you're a person of that ilk, yes, you do have mojo. People are attracted to you. And even so much, they take you scars and all. Regardless of you being a good person or a bad person or indifferent, they want to be around you. You have that power. You have that magnetism. And so, yeah, I can see from that angle, absolutely.
Yeah, but when we're talking about people being taken, what if those people didn't want to be taken? Because one of the things that Donald Trump did, in fact, bring up was that, well, Michael Cohen brought up about Donald Trump, was that his candidacy was never intending to win. And in fact, the quote that he used was, "This is about to be the greatest infomercial of all time." So when you're Donald Trump and you didn't want to be taken at all, now you're in kind of this situation where I guess, Chris, you're being taken seriously and you're not serious about any iota of what you're doing. How dangerous of a position is Trump's credibility in right now?
Extremely, because like you just said, and a lot of it felt the same way in the media and beyond, that he did not want the job. It was rumored, I heard on my end, that what he wanted to do, going back to what Michael Cohen said in testimony about it being, one big infomercial, what he was trying to do, that I heard, was create a lot of data, a lot of information to create his own cable network. By this time, he broke away from NBC. Mm-hmm. He was still, upset about that from The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice, and wanted to create his own thing, get some backers behind him, and do a whole 24-hour Trump network. But he needed, of course, the resources, and this was supposed to be the antithesis for the network.
Yeah, he was going to go after Bloomberg and Ted Turner. Well, not Ted Turner's not around anymore for that, but he was going to go after CNN, Bloomberg, and MSNBC. But this is kind of the strangest thing. Also in his crosshairs as candidate Trump was Fox News, because Roger Ailes basically said, "We are not going to marry our network to this guy." And then, of course, we found out what a S-hole Roger Ailes was, and then he died, and then Fox News and the Trump family married despite Daddy's wishes. So this is the thing. If he was going up against Fox News with this candidacy, why have they thrown all of their eggs in the Trump basket now?
Because it's good for the audience. Let's go back to Roger Ailes. I think it's very interesting to bring it up. Roger Ailes, history-wise, let's go back in the timeline, was the money man, the mover and shaker behind Rush Limbaugh. He was the one to pick Rush Limbaugh out of Sacramento, California, brought him over east, and the rest is history, or how you want to look at it, putting him in middays on radio and then take it from there. So Roger Ailes was the man for Limbaugh, and of course, he went on to do and create Fox News Channel. I think the reason why he did not want to partner up with Trump, he probably see Trump as a real conservative. He saw him as a probably opportunist. See, your real conservatives are like your Rush Limbaughs, your Sean Hannitys. Those are the real conservatives, not a Donald Trump. So I could see why Roger Ailes was like, no. You stay on your side of the street, and I stay on mine.
Yeah, but Roger Ailes was also responsible for the career of one Sean Hannity, who a lot of people have called the president de facto because of how much advice he gives Trump. And when Cohen talked about Trump and his circle of influence, he did kind of refer to this, I want to say, especially with guys like a Hannity and all of these counsels around the president, throughout the hearing, he did kind of refer to them as almost in mafia-type terms. How far off the mark is he?
I don't think he's that far off, Shaggy. I think that going back to this whole mentality that Donald Trump, that is, when it comes to want to be a boss, for a gangster or wankster, as I call him. Mm-hmm. He thrives in that, want to be Teflon. And, if you're a type of guy who thrives on that type of Godfather-like mentality or think that you are in your own little world, you gravitate towards that. And so you create the environment, the people around you and the whole thing, as though you are a mafia person. And you have mafia tones and speak and language, and that's because you want to become that type of mafioso person. Case in point, we've seen how he is, meaning Trump, when it comes to dictators. President Putin and recently now with Kim Jong-un, these are guys who are they're the real deal. They're the real gangsters. And he's not, as far as I'm concerned. He admires that because he, too, thinks in that same talk of conversation when it comes to the type of, really strong personalities of the world.
Yeah, because, it's kind of like a high school newspaper editor running up against the New York Times senior editor in charge of editorials. It's so removed from any sort of, how do I say this, familiarity between those two sources that although from the outside they look kind of the same, when you get to the inside of it, they are so radically different they might as well be different planets. Is that kind of what you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you gravitate towards people who you want to become, it's like, oh, I want to be just like you. I'm going to be just like you. Let me follow around. Let me sniff behind you and see what makes you tick. And it's funny, going back to the whole Michael Cohen hearings, a quote that he said, meaning Cohen, that was very interesting, was one of the committeemen. I expect your silliness because I did the same thing for 10 years.
Whoa.
That, to me, was a clarion call. In other words, who's your daddy? You're doing the same thing I did for 10 years. You may have known the man for a couple of years. I know him for 1 decade. I know how he operates. And I was that guy who lied, Look, Michael Cohen was so close to Trump. He was his own law firm. He changed the law firm name to Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. That's how he did everything. That's what they call him, a fixer.
Yeah.
So when these GOP committeemen, they're at the oversight committee, are doing these same tactics. In fact, one of them called the whole situation with Michael Cohen fake, as in fake news. Again, this creepy alliance to this man. But Michael Cohen let him know, look, what you're doing, I've done already.
Yeah.
So you can't use it on me. Yeah.
No,
I thought it was very interesting when you said that.
I know, because this is the thing. The Cohen testimony, and I'm sorry I'm getting all riled up because...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this is the whole thing that we went through while we were watching it. I was so excited that I had to run laps because I was like, oh. But, okay, let's talk about Cohen's demeanor. Overexcitedness of this show host aside, Cohen seemed to, especially when it came to moments like that, where they where they were coming after him and he was saying, hey, guys, check yourself in the mirror. You're doing the same thing I've been doing. Guilty as charged. Look at you, Jordan, Pippen, and Pippen. Y'all all doing me right now. When he did that, there was a measure of calm in all of his responses and rebuttals. Now, for all of their theatrics, the GOP should have known that when you are dealing with somebody that comes with, one, receipts, and two, after already losing everything and having nothing left to lose, the first thought on your mind should not be, how do we test the resolve of a guy that is literally here for his own craps and giggles? I mean, that's what it amounted to. He's just spilling the receipts right now because literally nothing bad more can happen to him. But did his testimony actually open up more legal woes for Trump, Chris?
I would say so. Of course, the Republican committeemen would not admit that, obviously, because they're on a different agenda. But when you have, again, those type of statements, he was very calm. Once again, this man forgets, he was a lawyer. He's recently disbarred, but it doesn't take away his experience, whether, you don't like it or not. Another exchange he had was with Representative Paul Gosar. And Gosar said to Cohen, you are a pathological liar. And Cohen's response was, you don't know Trump. I do. I'm not protecting Mr. Trump anymore.
Yeah. because
you can't take that lightly.
you this is the thing about this. Everybody in there was in a gunfight of some sort. With the Democrats, they were snipers. They were trying to just pick the tiny little points that they knew would at least clear up things. When it came to Republicans, on the other hand, Republicans, they went with the method of the shotgun, which is let's just go in there, pop a bunch of shells as fast as we can, and spray and pray our whole way through this scenario and hope we hit something. Did they hit anything, though?
I think they hit and miss. I think they were hitting for the obvious. So for the obvious, again, when you're saying things like Michael Cohen is a liar, he can't be trusted, there are a couple of discrepancies that we have to go over. So we got that part already. That's known. What we have to examine is what he said during the hearing about Mr. Trump, about President Trump. Again, they sidestepped it, they ignored it, they moonwalked around it. It had to do with that. Let's go back to the careless assassination that they were doing to him. People understand the following, that here's the deal. When you're trying to create something, it has to be shrouded in some sort of truth. In order for a lie to work, it's got to be shrouded in truth. And you're trying to take the truth of the fact that people want to admit, but Donald Trump is just not a nice man. That's the obvious. But in order to cover it up, let's put the onus on somebody else. Not once again, the person we should be talking about and have questions about investigation. So let's put it on somebody else. So we went over this before, Shaggy. It was a waste of time, as far as the Republicans were concerned, to ask the right questions to the president. Their blind allegiance got to the point where they didn't even utter his name at all. While the Democrats, of course, had to, ask the questions. I think the public wanted to know. I think even the Trump followers wanted some kind of accountability. Not all of them, but some. I was like, okay, wait a minute. What I think we did with certain people was when you had the unfortunate shutdown of the government, which went across the whole board, everybody, whether Democrat, Republican, or whatever. So when that was going on, people who followed Trump, hey, wait a minute, I don't have a check. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't give my kids something to eat or something to wear. You promised me that I would have a tax break, and now my tax refunds are lower than before. So people started to question across Trump across the board.
Yeah, and when
it didn't matter, right?
When it come to Cohen, he actually went into that area of the Trump administration and said he never, and this is just from the opening statements. Remember, there was a lot of testimony, and we don't have a lot of show to cover it. So he said that when it came to Donald Trump, we talked about him not being generous, not being nice, what have you. But when it comes to Donald Trump as a person, what would you say would be the most damaging thing from those opening statements?
I will go back to the original concept of Cohen saying he's a racist, a cheat, and a con man. I think that was brilliant to open up with.
Yeah, and this is the part that I am going to go into, because here's the thing. Michael Cohen did do a little bit of a tiny little B-52 bomb drop on everybody, and a lot of people just kind of glossed over that section just so they could get to the attacks. So immediately after Michael Cohen got in through here's the three things that Donald Trump is: cheat, con man, he's also racist. He said, and this is the fun part, when it comes to President Donald Trump and his relationship with Russia, his relationship with others, he is purely in it for himself. And when it comes to what he's going to get out of the presidency, all the people that you were talking about, the where's my check, why's my tax return, those are not the people that Donald Trump cared about, according to Michael Cohen. Donald Trump, according to Michael Cohen, only wanted to enrich himself. Could we now look at Donald Trump's policies and say, yes, that jails?
Absolutely. As Cohen said, it was about the Trump brand. First and foremost, it was about the brand. Another thing that was coming up during the testimony that Cohen mentioned was a guy named Alan Weisselberg. Weisselberg was the CFO of Trump Organization. Now, his name brought up a lot of times, for example, when going back to, say, Cohen getting paid, that was executive number 1, was Weisselberg. Name on the check, executive number 2 was Don Jr. So if all the checks he received was Weisselberg's name on the check, and every time he went into certain discrepancies or money or things like that, Weisselberg is the money man for Trump. Now, only Weisselberg and David Pecker, who's the AMI, you can't make these names up, David Pecker, AMI chairman and CEO, they're only the 2 Trump associates with immunity. You know, they are protected at this point, among the others. So that gives them a lot of clarity in the room to say what they want to say and be protected. So the immunity clause that both these men have should also not be ignored.
No, so David D. Pecker is protected right now.
Yes, he is. Him and Weisselberg.
Okay, well, my mom was right about those things. Protect them. When it comes to this protection, though, we do have to say that this is kind of interesting in the fact that when Michael Cohen started to mention all of those guys, he says, hey, if you think that I know things, and here's all the paperwork that I have between 2011 and 2013 with finances, if you think I know stuff, wait till you get these guys in front of you, because they know the books. And here's the thing, they know the books that we don't show people books.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Chris, when it comes to Donald Trump and all the mention of all those money men, here's the thing that gets me. Michael Cohen made reference to sitting in Donald Trump's office somewhere around June 2016 when, after consulting with the 2 money men that you were talking about, Donald Trump Jr. ran into the room, walked behind the desk, which, according to Cohen himself, was highly unusual, and told the future president of the United States, the meeting is set. Now, that meeting came with funds and everything else that had to be, sent through Weisserman. And Cohen thinks that was the infamous June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. With those names, with those 2 protected names, David Pecker and, what was it? Josh Weisserman?
Alan Weisselberg.
Alan Weisselberg. Those 2 names, with them now under protection, and with this kind of alluding from Michael Cohen that they were involved in the June 2016 meeting, how unlikely is it at this point that Donald Trump did not know about that meeting?
If anything, Trump knew, because, again, it's all about him. Nothing gets done, nothing gets past his desk without him seeing it. So, again, this goes back to what Cohen said about the alleged meeting. Also goes in the transcript of what Cohen was talking about was he believes that was the exchange about the call from Julian Assange of the emails going back to Hillary. And that timeline as well. So if what Michael Cohen is saying, that would bust up everything, along with all the other types of paper trails we'll see. But if they can link that whole thing happening and bust the whole thing wide open, it's over. It's over. He can forget it.
Speaking of being busted, can I just throw out a name here, Roger Stone? Because he was not supposed to say anything about witnesses, testimony, Russia, Trump. Basically, keep your mouth shut until you go to trial. After Cohen's initial testimony, when the committee took a break to go to a House vote before they came back, in that little gap, Roger Stone did the thing that he was not supposed to do. Is there a chance that he could be in trouble for trying to go online and in front of the media and say, I heard the Cohen testimony and he's lying about me?
I hope they come after him, because Roger Stone has been dancing and trying to tease the government for years, like, come and get me, come and get me. And he always felt he was above the law anyway. So in this situation, since he's been caught red-handed, see, people like Roger Stone and Paul Manafort will go all the way. They will not give up their leader. They will not give up Trump, and that's fine. I mean, okay, good for them. And I remember covering this before. The only one I said back then that had the possibility of going a 180 would be Cohen. I think Cohen, at that time, where we are now, was the only one to say, you know what, I have something to say. I'm not going to go this and do this anymore, like you said before, about not protecting the president anymore. I've had enough. It's a come to Jesus moment. It's an altar call moment. And if he does it just for the fact of, I'm sorry because my family got involved, it was worth it. It really was.
Yeah, because when it came to Elijah Cummings' comments, when Michael Cohen mentioned his family, he says, I remember seeing you coming out of the courtroom on the day of you being sentenced and looking at, was those braces? Those were braces on your little girl. Man, that's rough. That's what he said. And this is the thing. Chris, that was a very human moment in a very inhumane hearing, wasn't it?
That's what we need more of these politicians, more human moments. That's what we need. That's why Chairman Cummings should be more than applauded for what he did throughout the duration of that time and the closing statements that he had. He brought it all home.
Yeah.
And when you bring it all home and bring it down to his personal denominator, here's a man who's going to jail and will not see his wife and kids for 3 years. 3 years is a long time. It may not seem like a long time, but especially children, they grow up just like that.
Yeah, 3 years, you might as well come back to a different person altogether. Let's talk about, because we're going to run out of time if we don't do this, let's talk about Cummings' closing statements. After all the whirlwind of everything happening, Chris, where did he kind of leave us?
He left us with the fact that we must return to civility when it comes to this country and this nation. We must return to a respect factor that used to be there, not this openness of racism and separatism, elitism. We have to go back to basics. When he made the statement, we're better than this, Cummings loves this country. He loves this country just like any other person loves this country. We have to get back to the way things used to be, not only for us, but for our future of our children in this nation. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can't believe a guy that walked across the Selma Bridge and got hit with a water hose trying to get civil rights, who can we believe in, right, Chris?
You have to consider the source. The man is more than knowledgeable, a lawyer himself, and connected with Cohen when it came to the whole thing about being a father. It was a very emotional moment, and he was very emotional too, rightfully so.
Yeah. No, the thing is when it comes to Cummings' emotions, at the point that he was closing things out, do you think that, and I mean, because we saw him go time and time again with 5 minutes is the rule. No, I'm going to keep a hard 5. I'm sorry, your time is done. I mean, it was an exhausting proceeding for him. At the end of it, did he look like a man that could possibly just really start to cry with what he was watching happen in front of him in that committee?
Oh, absolutely. He mentioned during the hearings that if anybody knows about racism, it's me. If anybody knows about injustice, it's me. The man has more than the experience and the skill set to do it. What he said should be textbook for any country to read, to be historic for the future of what could possibly be where you are. It really should be textbook reading. It really should be.
Yeah, and that's going to close the chapter on this book for this week. Chris, thanks for coming on the show and helping us make all this sense of this stuff.
Oh, man, thank you as always. I missed you from last week, man. Thank you so much for having me back.
Oh, God, I know. I miss you when you're not around, and the common sense you bring. Well, for everybody else, that's enough common sense for 1 week. Strap in for the insanity of the weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Till then, love you, mean it. Kate and bye. Rocky up in that motherfucker.
You feel like Rocky. I almost feel like Creed.
Yeah. Oh, man. I got to tell you. So I was doing my... Now, this is kind of funny. So, I got like one of those Amazon devices, and they can read news to you. So I came home today, and I was kind of pissed off. My truck blew up on me, by the way. I'm surprised I'm not burned.
Oh, man, you all right?
Yeah, no. I opened up the hood because I heard a hissing, and then a T-joint busted, and all of a sudden, just my car was gone, and there was steam everywhere, and I hit the deck because I heard a pop. And when you live in a city and you hear a pop, what do you automatically do?
Yeah, you duck.
You duck.
Right.
They shooting.
Right.
You know.
Run for cover, right?
Right. So I come. I'm from that side of Charlotte when I used to do my hip hop thing. So yeah.
Right.
I heard the pop and I hit the deck. Boom. So probably saved my face. But
There you go.
the thing is I was like, I had my Alexa reading off some of the statements from the thing, and I'm sitting there like doing my little warm-ups because I'm doing the fitness thing.
Okay.
I got realizing that after a while I was just like punching the comments. And Representative Jim Jordan, motherfucker.
Right.
I was
That's exciting to see, dog.
Man, I was just like, I was sitting there like, and Michael Cohen said that Donald Trump has not been mentioned, and yeah, and then it's like, dude, you are not doing a warm up at this point. You fighting somebody that's just not in this room.
Right. There you go. Use it for motivation, man. Get your blood going.
Oh my God, I feel so sorry for my wife tonight because she's my partner.
Oh, like, hold on, baby.
I know. I'm just gonna be like, honey, I just want you to know this anger is not directed at you.
No, it's not. No, it's for Michael Cohen.
Motherfucker. And Matt Gates, motherfucker.
Yeah. And don't get to his zone, man. We're like one hand on you.
Oh.
One hand on.
Oh, speed bag.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
You racist Ku Klux Klan, white supremacist supporting motherfucker, Cracker Barrel motherfucker. Yeah.
Right.
Biscuit eating bitch.
You know what? You gotta start doing that. Keep your your buds in your ears and listen to that while you work out, man. You'll stay in shape.
I will be back next week looking like Michael B. Scott in Killmonger,
Yeah, man, make it happen.
Oh my God. I told my daughter, I was like, because, I keep telling everybody, like, that's what I want to look like. Specifically, Killmonger. Because I got a bunch of scars, so, it makes sense, right? So,
We'll say out, right.
right, so I told Piper, my daughter, because she was making the joke about, why you want to look like that? And I was like, because, honey, one day I want to run for office. And then, if I actually win, on that day, I want to walk into the room, kick open the door. Is this your councilman? Is this your councilman?
Right.
I've been waiting a long time for this.
Right. I got to see that movie again, man. That really was a good movie, dog.
Oh my God, I know. But Chadwick Boseman's face at the Oscars,
Oh man.
when they did the Best Picture, he kind of looked over his shoulder like, you see what they done to us, right?
Hey, we ain't gonna win. We're gonna win no Best Movie now. We making other stuff. We ain't gonna put no, like I'm surprised it was nominated. I think they out of respect, obviously, because of the box office success they had here and overseas. But ain't no winner really gonna win Best Movie, as far as I was concerned. But I'm glad they got other things like I'm glad Ruth Carter got an award. I mean, Ruth Carter been in the business for years, man. She was nominated for Malcolm X, and I forgot the other movie she was nominated for. But she's been around the game for a long time, man. The best costume design.
But still, I did want to see like a little T'Challa moment. Best Picture. This is what you call Best Picture. We are better than this, father. Oh my gosh, man.
Man, good stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, I gotta run because I still gotta run to the auto shop and get the part and fix my car before 4 a.m.
Yeah, take care of your business, man. But
Oh,
man, this has been sharp. But I have to say, just tune on Horns. I think it's probably our best show, man. This was just on fire, dog.
I know.
Yeah.
Damn, if I could just have, like, right now, I wish I had this day every day of the week. Because Ron and Thomas are driving me crazy,
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later because your man Ron got phony on me, man.